3, 2, 1. Actually, I'm doing it in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can visually see it. Come on, this is TJ. 3, 2, 1. Sound sync? All yours.
Well done, no. Cheers, Teach. Cheers. Oh. Wait for the next talk. The next talk's in the shower. Always hear, always start the
you can hear.
I might have to keep it there, actually.
He's got
it. He's good. All right. Welcome to the Academy Football Network podcast with myself, Big Nath, and Big C. We're lucky enough today to be joined by a guest who's had an interesting career, and for me, I would say a true test of mentality. I think true test of mentality, somebody that has faced adversity on multiple occasions and always seemed to come through it with positivity. So, welcome, Fraser Franks.
Cheers, thanks for having me, guys.
Carl, anything you want to add?
I think it's a similar sort of feeling, really. I mean, just by chatting to Fraser, it was one of the ones that you think this is something for young people definitely to listen to, in a real understanding of what the environment could be like in its honesty. So, yeah, definitely, glad to have you on.
It's one for me as well. I'm the academy setup's what I'm interested in getting into next. So, it's good for me to listen to and learn from other people as well.
No, it's good. And Battersea boy as well. So
Yeah.
you're Battersea. You got Kieran Battersea. You know what I'm saying? All right.
South London boys.
That's it, South London.
Oh, there we go.
Get some Northwest boys up there soon. All right. So we were done recently with Kieran. We started off like a quick fire round just to kind of loosen things up and get, our guest speaking. So we'll start off with a quick fire.
Yeah.
So ask some quick questions and see what your responses are. Okay. So favourite best youth coach you've played under?
Oh, best youth coach, Damien Matthews when I was at Chelsea.
Okay.
Yeah. I had him, I think, when I was about under 12. Yeah. And he's gone on. He was Chris Powell's assistant. Most places he went to, he was at Charlton.
Wow.
Southend. I think he's actually out in India at the minute. So, but yeah, he done a lot for me at a young age. Yeah.
Wow. Favourite academy memory?
Ooh, probably in the youth cup days. Probably the first time you actually play a competitive game and there's things riding on it. I remember we beat Southend 11-10 on penalties and just.
Oh, wow.
Like, it's one of the first times we've gone back into a changing room and everyone's like jumping up and down. Yeah, like youth cup was special back in my day.
Oh, I think it still is special.
Yeah,
I still love it.
Yeah. When you're in it,
I think
when you're in it, it's the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's massive for us.
100%. What is the worst part about being an apprentice for you personally?
I'm guessing most people say jobs. Yeah, jobs. We had every job, like clean. I'm talking cleaning toilets, boots, goals, equipment, pumping balls. When I was at Brentford, it was a bit of a different setup then, and we used to have to cook the food for the first team boys and everything like that. So yeah, the jobs were tough.
Imagine getting E-Man to cook some food. Cool. I know you're centre half, but what was your favourite position playing in the academy? Because I know academy sometimes you move around. What was your favourite position playing as an academy player?
I was brought in as a striker, but yeah, didn't score many. So I ended up becoming a centre back quite early, and probably when I was about 11 or 12. So yeah. Centre back.
And growing up, who was your footballing idol? John
Terry. I think being a Chelsea fan, he was the one that set the pathway for the academy boys, and definitely John Terry. Yeah,
I think Miles Marshall to say, I'm a Chelsea man as well. Too. Marshall to say he was a good player, man. Good player. And lastly, if you could change anything about academy football, what would you change?
For me, it would be to enjoy it more. Put far too much pressure on myself. When I look back at the age of 9, 10, 11, them years should be about technique and enjoyment, and I think it can become too serious too quick.
That's it, man. Brilliant basics. Barry Quinn. Yeah. Brilliant basics.
Oh wow. I guess this is where we start really, and listening to you saying 8, 9s, 10s, it would be good to start there really. We kind of talk about the academy setup and people's pathways and journeys. How did you start? Where did you get involved? What age?
Started Properly at little Chelsea development courses over Battersea Park.
I was there. I was in Battersea Park in the cage.
What happened?
Yeah.
I won a penalty shooter. I won it. But then that's the end of it.
I remember being about, I think you had to be about 6 or 7 to start, and my mum put me in at 4. So I was catching up with the boys, and that's my first memories. And then playing street football around our estate. Grew up in Battersea on a council estate, and everyone was football mad. A couple have gone on to have careers, but yeah, they're my earliest memories. Street football, little summer camps and stuff like that, and then that was it.
Cool. And then Chelsea picked you up.
I ended up I signed for Wanderers when I was when I was 8, and then I played for them for about 6 months while going to Chelsea Development Centre. And then me and one of the other lads got a trial for Chelsea. I remember a letter come through the door, and I was just buzzing, got a trial for the academy. And then it turned up, it was under 9s, but because my mate was 10, I made out I was in the under 10s just so I could be with him. So I trained a year up, and they didn't find out for about 6 weeks.
Wow.
So then I remember the coach coming up to me going, "You're not meant to be here, you're meant to be down with them boys."
Yeah.
And then they put me back in with the under 9s, and it probably helped me because I was being tested at under 10 level, got put down, and
you was educating your own development.
I
played up this week.
So I think it was just literally. I remember the first day I turned up. It was quite a brutal environment. I remember like joining in, and they were like, "Sign players only," and I was like, flipping out. Like I was a trialist, just trying to have a little kickabout before, and they were like, "Sign players only." So I think that's why I clung on to my mate. Who was a year above, and then I think it definitely worked in my favour that I did that, and then ended up signing at under 9 level.
Wow. Here, I don't know if you know a guy called Hiram Boateng.
Yeah.
Hiram come from Wandle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he came from Wandle.
There's been a few come through there.
So pretty much, I mean, we obviously did a little bit of research and stuff. We want to know lots about you. So you pretty much was at Chelsea for your whole kind of schoolboy years, as they called them. Yeah,
signed as a 8-year-old, so in the under 9s, and then I went through until about 15.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a massive for me, massive step, being a Chelsea fan and then going in, and that's all I ever wanted to do was play for Chelsea. But when I do look back, there's aspects that I would change, definitely. There's things I would have done differently, like my mentality would have been different. But at the same time, I loved it. Yeah. And in regards to sort of that point in schoolboy years and a couple of evenings, Sunday, I mean, what was the impact? Who impacted you the most? I know you talked about the coach in the quickfire round. And what was that impact like? What did that person do in terms of your development years? Damien was massive for me. When I mentioned him before, he, made me feel valued. But I think, from day one, I think my mum was the main influence on me. Single parent, didn't drive, anything like that. So she was taking me buses, trains to training. Never complained, never made me feel like it was chore, anything like that. So I looked at. It was quite a lot of boys from South London that ended up coming through at Chelsea, and I looked at some of their, they weren't being supported by their parents. They were struggling to get to training. They were late, and I was thankful for my mum had 3 kids, and she still managed to work, take me to training. I think especially when I look back now and realising that she didn't actually drive, and we was getting buses and trains and tubes, and it was going all the way from Battersea to Colin. And if I didn't have her, then I wouldn't. Some of these lads didn't have it, and they weren't able to get to training. Without her, then I probably definitely wouldn't have been a footballer. Got through the career. Wow, and key memories. You talk about the key memories. So I say some of the stuff that I would change is in terms of a key memory is like. I was a nervous wreck. I was. What was that like? To give us some examples. What was that like? I remember not being able to sleep before games as like a 9-year-old kid. Wow. So that's where now I look at it and I think them years you enjoy it, that should just be purely enjoyment. And when you're at somewhere like Chelsea, you learn. I was always willing to learn and listen to the coaches, but I think because I was a Chelsea fan, I was in awe of the environment. Yeah. Desperate to do well.
It was a big thing. I remember it was a big thing back in the day. I don't know how it is now, but definitely got up in Battersea. Playing for Chelsea was like a huge thing. A huge thing.
I think there's impacts as well. I think when you, still nowadays, if you went into a school and there was like, oh, that lad plays for Chelsea, automatically think most popular kid in school, confident, cocky, but I was the complete opposite.
Really?
And then you also get, I found in my school like so much jealousy where I played for Chelsea, so anytime I joined in at lunchtime, people were trying to snap me. They were trying to, honestly,
Get this.
There weren't many getting opportunities at academies at that time. And I think people in my school thought that they deserved to be there as well.
I think you're as good as you.
Opportunity.
It toughened me up, but also, I had to be a bit wary in the playground. That was
so interesting. You know what I mean? 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
All those things that you probably don't associate with academy football. You're a young person, you play for academy football, generally popular, but you have a young person who finds it difficult finds anxious about the environment, but wants to be there.
Yeah.
And socially might be finding things difficult. So it's just quite interesting.
Yeah,
I like hearing it. It's just interesting that
there's a lot of different. You had a lot of confident lads, and I almost wished I could have been that, but it wasn't in my makeup as a kid, and I had to go through various things to end up coming out the other side mentally stronger. And I think when I look at 9 and 10-year-olds now, I'm like, just enjoy the game. Like, don't put too much pressure on. Don't let parents are a big. I never had my mum put massive pressure on me. I put it on myself, but sometimes when I see these parents that want their kid to do so well, that sometimes it ends up the kid goes the other way and loses interest, and
see all the time.
There's a fine line between supporting and then really like pushing your son to the limit, where sometimes at that age mentally some things stay with you, I think, for a long time.
So now you're if we even rewind it slightly and say you are now a coach, and there's a under 9 now that's the nervous kid. How would you deal with that young person?
I think you've got to take in each individual case differently. I think this is where the player care role in an academy is growing now, and you've got people that are solely focused on looking at off the pitch stuff and seeing the well-being of the kids, and I think that's a massive growing aspect that I probably could have done with as a kid. I think you always try and come across confident and in front of your coaches as a young player. But I think if you're a coach and you're doing your job properly, you'll know the kids, you'll ask questions, you try and get feedback, and I just think knowing the personalities is just as important as, or probably more important as what they can do on the pitch.
Yeah,
I do agree.
And so you in your team, what kind of players were around, if you could obviously name drop a little bit?
We'll catch them.
You know what? From my time at Chelsea, there was Josh McEachran, who was a year or so below, who would play up. Yeah. You had Andy King, was a year above, who went on to win the Premier with Leicester.
Yeah.
He got released at 16 and bounced back.
Yeah.
Frank Newball, who's had a career for himself. Jack Corks in the Premier League. So you had I think in between there was a couple year below and a couple years above. But my actual age group, there were some good players, but they just drifted away. A lot went further than me and got YTS at Chelsea, and I think some of them got pros, but for whatever reason they fell away. But I think from the group of lads that were there when I got released, not many actually went on to make it as professional.
Wow,
it's interesting. I always find it interesting when speaking to people who've had a career and then reflecting on their academy time. The names that did you think that they would go on to have careers?
A few of them, yeah. You thought I knew like Josh McEachran was way above anyone else. He ended up playing in the Champions League for Chelsea, and again probably maybe could have kicked on more, but different circumstances. There's others that you never would have thought, but because they were, determined and passionate and those kind of things, and they were strong mentally, they weren't as good. I was nowhere near as good as half the boys in my year, but I ended up making a career for myself.
Probably a better career.
Yeah, there's one lad that Sam Hutchinson that rings a bell.
He broke his leg.
Yeah, so he had a lot of injuries as a kid. He probably he used to play down, and he's a year above me, but he used to play down. Probably wouldn't mind me saying, he never thought he would have gone on to have a career. There was better players there, but he was so determined, and he ended up playing for Chelsea's first team. He's
I think I saw him play at the Bridge a couple of times.
He's playing for Sheff Wednesday now in the Champ, and I think he's probably got about 250 appearances in the Championship, and he's had a proper career.
It's good, isn't it? And he would be one to speak to people. He probably thought he was going to have a career because
definitely.
where he was at when he was at his academy football. But I mean, it probably supports his mental strength and his determination.
I think there's massively different development ages as well. Like I was up until the age of 15, slowest one at the club in my age group, weakest one. There were like kids that are having massive growth spurts that were coming in, and you felt like we used to do races, and I'd be like my mentality at academy level at Chelsea was just, don't be last, don't be the worst player. Instead of going out and thinking, can I be the best?
Yeah.
I was just like, right, don't come last, don't be the worst player. And having that mentality, at such a young age, I was like, when I look back now and reflect, it's only when I dropped down to when I got released and I had different experiences that I was like, no, actually, you need to aim to be the best player. And
interesting.
I remember Sam Hutchinson playing, and there's a guy called Sam Delabono as well. He's playing midfield. Big Chelsea fan. All right, so then coming at the end of 16s, you was released. Can you talk to us a bit about that process and how you then found Brentford?
Yeah, it was a strange one actually. In the back of my mind, like I've been told when I got a 2-year deal, I think it was at 14. You've got a 2-year deal by the skin of your teeth, and that still, I remember the academy manager saying it, so I was like, I almost felt like I was lucky to be there. And then from that 2 years I knew I was getting released at 16. The money came into Chelsea, we started getting a lot of foreign players.
Oh, so you was before the change?
Yeah, and then we started getting a lot of I remember Patrick Van Arnholt came in, who's at I think he came in
Palace,
from, I don't know where he came in from, Ajax maybe, something like that.
Okay.
And he was just a different level. He was a man. He was physical. He was like 6-pack on him, and I was like a little skinny kid. And I just looked and I was like, I'm nowhere near as good as this kid. And I think he was the same age as me. And I just knew in the back of my mind, I knew I was getting released before, so it didn't come as a shock to me. I still had the phone call and broke down crying and that for a day or whatever. But I quickly got on with it.
So is that how it was managed? You just got a phone call,
You know what? I don't know how it is now, but it was a phone call to my mum. So I wasn't involved, and I remember like a vivid memory. I remember I was at a computer. My mum got the phone call and she was like, "No, that's it. Like you've been released." And then
we never went it again.
That was it. You got invited back in to carry on training until the end of your contract and stuff, but no, that was it. And then I think when you're in an academy bubble as well, where in the back of my mind I was thinking, right, if I get released, I'll just go and sign for West Ham. Or I'll just go and sign for Palace because I was at Chelsea and thought I could just do that.
Yeah, you're one of the top academies.
And then you quickly realise that it ain't that easy. I remember Chelsea was saying, we'll tout your name around, and the phone just didn't ring. I remember going on every club's website, taking down email addresses and postcodes and stuff, handwriting to every club saying just been released from Chelsea, and I think probably 2 clubs wrote back and they were like, no, you need to be scouted. And then I got a phone call from Millwall for a trial. I went down there, was probably there for it was meant to be 6 weeks, but it got dragged out for a good few months.
Wow.
And they said come back next season, and then Brentford offered me a trial as well, but they wanted to sign me straight away.
Wow.
So I went down to Brentford, and just completely different from Chelsea. Good. You had no kit when you first go there, so I remember just having to go to JD on the way and get the cheapest stuff I could find. I'd never had to.
Sport was direct.
Yeah, I'd only ever had Chelsea kit and stuff, and I didn't want to be like turning up in that.
Yeah.
You had lampposts with floodlights. Like you could hardly see when you was training in the evenings. It was very unorganised, but saying that, the only you have the superficial stuff that comes with Chelsea. I just wanted to play football, so I'm one of these. I wasn't like, we had like all this stuff at Chelsea, like free boots, kit. You had a driver that took you to training. I wasn't like that. You had a driver in the last year or so.
Yeah.
That didn't bother me. I just wanted to play football, and I went from wanting to be the best player, and I think I found my level. I needed to drop down, regain my confidence. It made me made me think, you know what, I can be one of the best players here, and ended up probably being the best thing that I did was didn't go back to Millwall, and I signed a scholarship at Brentford.
They had a good group down there, didn't they? A lot of them.
Brentford.
They had a good group. I think in those years, that age group was.
We had well, not so much in our age group, but I went straight into the youth team. We had, actually for my youth team, I was the only one that ended up getting a professional contract at the end of it.
So you went into Brentford's.
I went into the youth team. I had the first year. It's just one of them. I look back at that, and it's them 2 youth team days where you're full time and you feel like a footballer. You're going into training. You got to do all the jobs and stuff, and you got to earn your right. But I just loved every minute. Like that 2 years in the youth team, it grounds you, but it gives you an insight. And you look into the first team players and think, God, I want to,
aspire to be there and stuff like that.
The thing with it as well is because you got all the jobs and you're not coming out until 4:30. You just think this is the best job in the world if I didn't have to do all that. So if you get a professional contract, all the jobs go.
Yeah, all you got to do is train, and then
it was a dream. Like you could see it. You could see what the first team were doing, and I had a clear goal. Like I wanted to play for their first team.
Wow.
And then so towards the end of at Brentford, you didn't manage to make any appearances.
No, it was a weird one because I got a pro. As I said, like the whole youth team got released and they kept me on as a pro. I'd been on the bench quite a lot as a second year scholar, so I would have been 17.
Yeah, 17.
I went on loan to Basingstoke Town in the Conference South when I was 17 as well. Just like playing men's football, and that was another good grounding. Like you're playing with men who demand off you, and we had a lot of like old school guys in there that were demanding. So that was good for me. And then I got a pro, but when I look back, it was we got promoted to League One. That's probably the worst thing that could have happened for me because in my head, I was training well and I felt ready to play for the first team. But looking back, I wasn't ready for League One football. Not at the age of 18.
Another year at League Two might have helped.
But there was no 23 set up. It was you had to go straight from the youth team into the first team, and if you weren't starting, you were seen as a waste of money really, an extra wage. So I remember the manager calling me in at the end of the season was just like, look, you need to drop down and find your level, and then hopefully you can come back. But he said like you're not going to be starting in League One next season, so it's going to be unfair for us to keep you, and it'll be holding you back. So.
And did that feel like another Chelsea situation, or was it managed better? And is it something that you started to say, do you know what, here we go again?
I think I'd had a taste of first team football at Basingstoke, and I just wanted to play games. So I remember just going like asking him, what can I do to get in your team? Like banging on his door, and I think by the end of it, I became a bit of a pain for him and a bit of a problem. And I remember once you probably don't remember it, but we had Colchester away, and there was like 7 subs. So I was always on the bench every week, but I was just never coming on. And I remember banging on his door the day before or a couple of days before, saying that I want to play. I feel like I should play. And he was like, "No, you're not ready," that kind of thing. And then there was only enough in the squad so everyone would have been on the bench. There was no one missing out. There was only 18 that travelled. So my shirt was up and everything. He named the squad and he named 6 subs on the bench
instead of
7, and put me in the stand. So I was like, Jesus Christ! So I was like, that for me was like the biggest like hurt my pride, like in front of the boys. I think it was him like teaching me a little bit of a lesson and trying to not bring me down to earth, because I wasn't cocky or anything. I just wanted to play, and it was his way of saying, look, you're not ready, and you're probably not going to be here next year. So put me in the stand, and from that point I was like, right, I need to leave. I need to go and get a career for myself, and if I'm not going to play at Brentford, then I'd have been happy to go.
To Kieran, he went out to try and get a bit of feedback from coaches, and it kind of backfired on him, and he kind of was debating, did he do the right thing, didn't do the right thing.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? It's just it's that thin line really as well, in terms of you want to show that in terms of your transition, I'm ready for men's football, I'm ready for their adult environment, but can you come across too strong? It is
a hard one, because I think you've got characters in football that are happy going in, and a lot of people in that position would have been happy being on, like, you're 18, you're on the bench in League One every week, but I've never had that in me. I've always felt a little bit embarrassed if I'm not embarrassed. It hurts my pride if I'm not playing, and especially when I'm not in the squads, and you go through rides where you love football, and then you can't stand it because you're not gonna play, and you're seeing your mates go out and play, and you're in the stands and on the bench, and you're running afterwards and extra training, and sometimes it can be demoralising, but I knew my time had come to an end, and I loved my youth team days, but that first year pro was quite tough and probably took me down. It should have made me go up, and it probably sent me downwards.
Okay, so after Brentford, what was next steps for you?
So I had
because there seemed to be a lot of change.
There was always a lot of ups and downs when I look at my career, but that was probably a big summer for me. I'd had that first year pro, so it made me, I had a few clubs in for me, but they were part-time clubs, and it was Basingstoke had offered me a deal, but I'd looked at them and I'd seen, it was an unprofessional environment, and I wanted to, they offered me more money than teams I ended up signing for, but I ended up.
You wanted to be in a more full time.
I wanted to stay full time. I wanted to, be a proper footballer.
Yeah.
I remember speaking to a couple of League Two clubs, but they were like, "Oh, I'll come in, but I don't see you playing," and that kind of thing. And then out of the blue, I got a call from AFC Wimbledon that said, "Come in and have a trial." And they were in the conference, but they were like the big conference club. They were selling out every week. Didn't have big money or anything. Just got they had a good model where it was all young lads that had been released from like pro clubs, come here, do well, move on, and they were signing like the best young London lads. So there was loads of people on trial. And I remember it was I went on trial, did really well. And it was between me and he's ended up being one of my best mates actually, Ed Harris. So he got released from QPR, I got released from Brentford. And they said, I can say what the money was anyway. They said we got £300 a week for one centre half. Yeah. And they were like, but we like both of you. So then me and him went outside and was like,
we'll split it.
Should we just take 150 each?
Jeez.
We both live at home. We was like, should we just take 150 each and see how it goes on? So we both went in. And we said, like, you got £300 budget. We said we'll take 150 each, and
that's decent. That is a good story. I like that.
And then we ended up signing. So we was.
And you become mates ever since.
Yeah, best like he was groomsman at my wedding.
Jeez, I like that. I like that.
So we were in competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked out well. We both Wimbledon. As I said, like they're paying like 150 a week. Where you had Crawley ended up competing with us for the league. They were paying, £3,000 a week in the conference and 50 grand sign-on fees.
Jeez.
But Wimbledon, like the attraction, it weren't the money. It was full-time football, potentially playing like in front of a full house every week. And it's not until I went to that club you realise like how big it is and what it means to the fans and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's got that grassroots community in it.
It's a proper, honestly, like you go to. I think most of my career, you go to a club, you get a gut feeling, and for us, we were like, I think Ed was on maybe £500 a week at. QPR took 150. I was on probably £300 or something like that to 150, and that was it. We just wanted to make a career for ourselves. Yeah,
good move. Good.
Yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. We had a young team. Everyone hungry. Everyone there for the right reason. No big timers or anything like that.
And that's another story. Do you know what I mean? I can't imagine. I'm gonna be honest now. Any young person involved in football to turn around and go out the door and kind of negotiate between them and another person to go in and get, we'll take whatever it is.
We had no agents.
Exactly.
Nothing like that. So it was literally like we were both desperate to sign. We ended up doing it. One of the best things was we both signed. So the manager said like, right, we've got 4 centre halves. They had 2 experienced ones, 2 young ones. So it took us like the first few games we was on the bench, and then. We played Crawley, so they were like the league leaders. Like TV game, did training the day before. Both of us on the bench, 2 main centre halves playing. Both come down ill. the night before. So we turned up at the game, like cameras like following us in, like my first real experience of that.
Yeah.
Just expecting to be on the bench, and then the manager called us in and said, "Look, you're both starting tonight, like debuts." And we was like, I think we were both 19 at the time. It was like, Jesus, like top of the league. Like I think they just bought both their strikers for like record fees, and we was like, oh Jesus Christ. And then that game we ended up winning. We ended up winning 2-1. I got man of the match on telly. Ed had like good game as well. And then from then we both played like a big part in that season, and eventually Crawley ended up winning the league, but we went up in the playoffs.
And how was that opportunity? I know we're probably going a little bit off track. I'm just feeling that you're 19, the manager tells you you're going to start, it's your debut. I mean, did you feel prepared for it in any way, or?
I think the best thing for me was that it got sprung on me, because if you told me the day before, I'd have been going to bed, I'd been overthinking it.
Yeah. All of a sudden you're 9 and 10 again in Chelsea.
Exactly. From this point I was a little bit more grown up, a little bit more mature, and when he come in and said it, I was just like, he basically put it on us as if, you're playing against the two best strikers in the league, you're both 19, first games, you've got nothing to lose. He was like, go out and prove why we signed you. And I can still remember, like, it was like the best feeling ever after that game. I remember coming in and he got the whole squad to give us a round of applause and that kind of thing, and proper, like, it was a special group that we had there.
Who was the manager at the time?
Terry Brown. Okay. So he was an old school manager, but he could see attitudes in players, I think. He got people in, that's why he wanted people in on trial, just so he could see their character. He knew what people could do as players, but he brought the right characters in, and that's why I think I was speaking to the assistant manager that was at the club. I think we had like the 15th or 16th lowest budget in the league, and ended up second in the league and winning the playoffs. So to get that club back to the football league was massive.
Yeah, it was massive. Okay.
And if we go back to, I know right at the start of the podcast we talked about mentality, and this is probably where it's going to come again, your mentality, that Chelsea, you've been released, and Brentford left, Wimbledon doing really, really well. Then the injury hits.
Yeah, that was it.
Talk to us about that.
That was probably one of the toughest points of my career, I'd say, because from the debut I'd ended up, I think I'd played 25 games, and we were maybe 2 or 3 points away from Crawley, and I think there was, it's the back end of the season. We knew we was in the playoffs, possibly like going to win the league. And then I remember playing Grimsby away, and someone shielded it out for a corner, and I've tried to get my leg across and swipe the ball, and I've caught it, and my knee's just overextended. And then I went down, stretcher on, and then literally the pain just went, and this was the first minute of the game. So then I tried jogging, and I think just like adrenaline just kicked in or whatever, and I played 90 minutes. Got on the coach afterwards, long journey back from Grimsby, and my knee just blew up, and I was like, something's not right here. Got off and couldn't walk, so someone had to drive me home. Wimbledon didn't have like great money, so they didn't send me for a scan. They thought it was something different, so I had about 3 weeks where they were treating it, and it really settled down. And then I was still doing something, and I just didn't feel right, so they sent me for a scan, and I'd torn my ACL. So that was, I went in there thinking he'd give me some kind of program and I'll be back in a week or something. And then he said, no, this is you 10, 11 months out, and to miss the playoffs and miss the playoff final, and when the club did get to League Two, I missed literally up until the January, and then struggled to get in after that. So that was another one. I was literally, going up and up and making a bit of a name for myself, and then just came crashing back down again.
Wow. And again, listen, like what Nate's saying, that whole mental strength, I know we talk about it a lot, and it's just, how do you develop that? And I mean, you talk about how you was as a young person, you've gone through a few times having to deal with setbacks, and it's obviously developed in terms of your mentality and your strength.
I think now looking back at it, it's, these are like not little blessings, but I look back at them now, and this is where I feel like moving forward I can probably help, because I've gone through a lot of experiences which young players struggle with. Like a lot of people do their ACL and think they'll never be the same again, but it is an injury that you know, if you hopefully if you treat it right, you can come back and you can bounce back from it. And I always knew I'd bounce back. I wasn't blessed with the most pace, so I weren't going to lose. I weren't going to lose much pace. So I thought, you know, that wouldn't hinder me too much.
Cool. And then so you struggling to get back into the team, and again we're talking about mentality. You then decided to drop down a few leagues, and you had a call from a manager down at Welling. How did that go?
Yeah, so I come to the end of my time at Wimbledon, and Terry Brown, he was brilliant with me, and just said, look, you knew I was struggling to get in the team. I got sent out on loan a couple of times, but I didn't want to go on loan, and I probably didn't do myself any favours by doing it. I went there with the wrong mentality. I came back, I was just frustrated not playing, and he just said, look, I think it's best. He basically said, look, you can stay, but it would be unfair on you, and I don't see you starting next season, basically. So I knew again I had to leave, and I was released. I didn't turn down the deal because one didn't get offered to me, but I had the conversation, and then I went that summer and just trying to find a club, and every club came back and said the same thing. We've seen you play like when I was fit and stuff, like you as a player, but you're inexperienced. You've only played 30 games, and now I was 20 at that point, or 21. Yeah, 21 I was. And they said you only played like 30, 40 games. Every single club was coming back saying we're going to go with experience, and it killed me. So I knew what I needed to do. I needed to just go somewhere. I know I was going to play week in, week out and establish myself. And Welling, they were a club that always produced players. You'd have players go down. They get a lot of scouts there. A lot of players have gone on to play for a club like Palace, Charlton, Gillingham, them kind of teams that are around the area. And the manager wanted to, play the kind of football that I wanted to play. Straight away phoned me again. Money. I'd moved out by the time I was playing for Wimbledon, so I knew money weren't going to be great, and I'd have to move back home, which was another little bit of an ego boost for me. Ego drop. Yeah. So I ended up signing for them again on not much money at all, but I needed to play week in, week out. But the biggest struggle for me was that's the first time I'd ever played part-time football. So that mentally was that was tough.
Well, how did you occupy the rest of your time?
You know what?
PlayStation.
This is the first month or so. That was it. Football manager, getting up, going to the gym every now and then, but no discipline. And then just something struck, and I was like, you know what? This is probably my last opportunity. I was looking at players. This is when social media first started coming of use, and I could see my mates filming in the change rooms at different clubs. Yeah. One of the lads that I played with growing up was Craig Eastman, and I remember it so clear. And this probably does click, that I was at Welling, sat in my bedroom at home. I probably had a game the next night, and he was on the bench for Arsenal at the new camp. And I was like, how have I ended up playing part time and he's at the new camp on the bench? And I think that's where you can use it in a certain way. I would never want to compare myself to other people, because you drive yourself mad. The amount of times you think, I could have done that, or I could have done that. It's different paths of different people, but something clicked in my head, and best thing that I ever did was I literally said to myself, right, I'm going to pretend that I'm a full-time footballer. So I got a gym membership that was about half an hour away, so I literally simulated, right, I can drive into the training ground. Went to the gym every single day, double session, felt like I was a little kid again. I went to the park with a football, and was probably that's another thing that probably hurt my ego a little bit, where I was in a park with cones and stuff, and instead of training with your mates, you're training on your own. But I literally dedicated everything I did. I had no social life, didn't go out, didn't get involved in drinking, anything like that. I just proper dedicated myself for that full season, and started playing really well for Welling. Felt valued, and they showed me a bit of love, which I needed. And then,
there's two things that sticks out for me, and just hearing that is that, again, I just in my own experiences and looking at what, in terms of the young boys do at different clubs in regards to, do you know what, I really want to be a full-time footballer, a professional footballer, and whether or not they have that sort of drive to say, do you know what, I'm just going to dedicate my time. Yeah, we might be training for an hour and a half, but I'm going to do another hour and a half in my own time, or I'm going to, do do you know what, I'm going to go down the park on the day off or whatever and just dedicate time. Yes, you want them to have a conscious break from it mentally, but at the same time, you have to do those things. I mean, that's one thing that stands out for me. And also thinking about just the Craig Eastman comment in terms of what you do get a lot of time, because when you do kind of submerge yourself into it, and you the social media aspects of it, and just seeing other people doing other things, because you kind of live in a football world. Your mates are all footballers, and just seeing other people doing other things can have an impact, either negatively or positively. To be honest, I guess for you, it kind of drove you, which is interesting.
Yeah, it did. It's you can, as I said, you can drive yourself mad by doing it, and people do it all the time. But I just think, don't compare your journey to anyone else's, because later down the line, if you see someone could be right up there, and then something happens to them and they're down there, you could go up and they come down, and it is mad how it works. But yeah, that year at Welling, as I said, I dedicated myself properly, and I became I took it very serious, and probably got a little bit of stick by it, because these lads were going to work, going to training, and wanting to mess about, and I was like, no, I want to be serious. And I almost become a bit of a leader, where I didn't want them going out and being on the drink, because it would affect me. And I was trying to get a move, and I just wanted us to be as best as we could. And that's another good decision that I feel like I made. I dropped down. I didn't have that tag. I played, by the time I left Welling, I played about 75, 80 games. So no one could say you're not experienced anymore. So that was an excuse gone. And then, I felt like I established myself after that.
And then obviously you reaped the benefits of all your hard work, going to the park, double sisters in the gym, Luton Town came in, Forest Green, Stevenage. How did you choose which club to go to next?
I think a big thing for me was I got picked for the England C team, which is so you get all the non-league players that are under 23, you get picked for this side, and some of the players that have gone on, you got Andre Gray at Watford, Sam Clucas went on to play in the Prem, James Norwood, you got Andy Yeardom. Says I think near enough everyone from that team ended up getting a move, so it was a little bit of a shop window, and I had a buyout clause of, I think it was 10 grand in my contract, so anyone that bid that, I was gone. I was gone. So then no one really knew about it, and then I think some in the non-league paper someone had put my release clause in there, and then from then people knew that, if they paid this price I could go. The first one I went to was, I did 2 days at Stevenage under Graham Wesley, and that was an experience. Just got beasted, absolutely beasted. They were in League One at the time, so it was still, when you get offers from the Football League, as a non-league player, you're just desperate. I would have done anything. So I went there, trained for 2 days. I went to Forest Green just to have a chat with their gaffer. They were chucking big money around. And it's something I'd never earned money from football. I was 22 at this point, and I'd never gone anywhere for money. I would have signed for Basingstoke if that was the case, or anywhere else. So the money thing was second. Colchester were in League One as well, but they couldn't afford the fee at the time. I don't for a big club like that. They were trying to hustle and get a bit lower. And then Luton came in, and when they showed me around their stadium, and Andre Gray was quite a big part, because I knew him and could ask him questions about it, and I could see that Luton were going to go up. Stevenage were possibly going to go down, and so were Colchester. So by next season, I think all the clubs would have been in the same league anyway. I think when I saw Luton Stadium, the fan base, I had a chat with the manager there. I just thought, this opportunity is the one, and ended up signing for them in the January.
Wow.
And then, in terms of playing there, how did you actually enjoy it? How was the experience?
First, initially I loved it. I remember going from Welling, where you're playing in front of, I think probably 600-700 fans, to 10,000 sell out every week. Top of the league. I think my first 5 games we were smashing teams. Kept 5 clean sheets on the spin, and I was I was playing every week and loving it. And And then we were top of the league. I remember so clearly this game. This is another one that probably the worst game of my career. So we needed to win. We had Braintree. I think they were near the bottom, like one of the only part-time clubs. Braintree at home. It was on BT Sport. Like literally everyone come with like t-shirts, like we've won the league, trophies, anything like that. Because we were just on a run. Like thought we was going to win it. And I literally had the worst game of my life. Literally, honestly. I still got like notes on my phone where I've written notes after the game to like, don't ever feel like this. Like I never wanted to feel like that again. Because I'd literally, everyone had come for this party, and I was at fault for probably 3 goals and we lost 3-2. It's the worst. Honestly, it's the worst I've ever felt. That's another thing that the manager came out in the press conference and almost blamed me as well.
Oh, is
and
it?
I was like, I'm never, even when I see Premier League managers do it, I'm not a big fan of that, and that affected me. That dented me a little bit. But then we ended up winning the league. It was a week after we won the league, but that stuck with me a little bit and tainted it.
Sour taste.
Yeah, it was a little bit, because I was flying as well, and then I just had a little couple of blips, and then I was not blamed, but I was in. When it comes out in the press that it's your fault, and all these people have turned up to win the league, and you feel like you've let them down.
So did you stay there long? Was you there long? How?
So that was so we won the league, and that feeling went, and when we won the league I was like buzzing and brilliant. Had some like good friends there as well, and then we went into League 2 the next season, and Luton, they had a decent bit of money. They brought in some good players. They wanted to go straight up to League 1. That's the plan. I still had another 1.5 years left on my deal. Well, no, 2 years left on my deal because I triggered another year when we got promoted. And just the second year, I was in and out of the team. It was in League. It just seemed like every time I got to the Football League, that was it. Like never quite making it and getting dropped back down again. And I just remember I just didn't get on with the manager. Not personally, just our styles didn't clash. Our styles clashed a little bit. I was in and out of the team, and it come to the end of the season, so I had a year left on my contract. And he basically just said, "What do you want to do?" And I was just at that point. I was like, right. I said, I've played week in, week out well in. I've won the league here. I said, I just want to keep playing football. So he was like, right, you've got permission to speak to other clubs. And then Teddy Sheringham come in for me at Stevenage. So it was the same league. So I was, it was a League 2 club, which was big for me because I was like, I'd worked so hard to be a Football League player that I didn't want to go back down to non-league. So that for me was like a big step. I was like, right, this is, I'm going into a League 2 club. I'm not the young kid from non-league. I'm going in. I was 20, I was 24. I was a bit more experienced. So I was like, you know what? I've earned the right to be here. Teddy brought me in, and I had a brilliant time at Stevenage, and that established me as a Football League player.
Fun times.
Yeah, it was. I got Player of the Year in my first year, and like the fans warmed to me, and that was going from. Not saying the fans didn't like me at Luton. They, when I first went there, they proper liked me, but they weren't like singing my name or all that kind of stuff. When I went to Stevenage, and they were fans with my name on the back of their shirt. And
I kind of feel like listening to you, hearing some of the things in terms of when you was young, and now we're going into sort of your adult years and your footballing adult years. Just it kind of your personality needs a kind of nurturing, supportive approach.
I think that's where man management's massive. I think I wasn't like a soft when I was older. I wasn't soft. Like I'd go home and I wouldn't cry about it. I'd sulk if we lost, and I was quite an emotional player. Like a lot of people can switch off away from football, and it took me a while took me probably till I joined Stevenage, where if I'd had a bad game, I was like, you know what, it's not the end of the world. Like there's a lot more going on, and if you've lost like in the last minute or something, coach journey home is bad, but you move on. And then from when I adopted that attitude, my game started to develop, and I weren't really as fearful, and I was confident, and I think that's where man management is big, because if someone had seen that, maybe he needs this, maybe he needs that.
It's interesting. When you're an adult and you're playing in a first team environment, they call it man management. When you're a child or you're an under 18-year-old, what do we call that, man management? Are we still calling it man management, or are we calling it individualisation? I think there's loads of different words, but I think it's the same thing. It's just, listening to what you said right at the beginning in terms of getting to know people, dealing with the individual. I think that's quite key. And I think the more we're doing this, we're quite kind of hearing it a lot, where a lot of people are saying that's quite key. And when you miss that kind of important part with people, you lose either the individual or you lose the group. Sometimes you lose the team.
It's, I think the mentality side's, just as, or if not more, important. Because if I look back at some of my bad games, it was never like physical things. It was all mental. It was stuff going on in my head. And this is where, moving forward, I feel like I can help players that have been in my position, just being that little bit of a support system. And just know, like, going through different experiences, like, if you, by listening to this, you can tell, like, I've had so many ups and so many downs. Like, when I look back, I had 3 promotions in my first 4 seasons as a player, but then got to that next level and then had to drop down again, and got up and then got down. So going through these like roller coaster experiences, that's why I think that early one at Chelsea taught me, you can bounce back from it. And one person's opinion don't define you as a player. I think a lot of the lads that ended up going further than me at Chelsea stayed till they was in their early 20s and had their first rejection then, and struggled to deal with it.
Cope.
I think
that happens a lot. That happens
makes
a
you
lot.
a bit more resilient when you can deal with it. Yeah.
So then, just to briefly touch on Newport. And that's what's that Carter's point? Is that your point?
That's all right. You go, mate. You run with it.
Going on Newport, like really briefly, how was that time? Because obviously he was under Sarli at Stevenage, and he said man management really good, and then Newport. How was that?
Yeah, Sarli. So Teddy Shane was the manager at Stevenage, and then Sarli took over. He'd left by the time that I'd gone, but he was brilliant for me as well. But I just come to the end of my contract at Stevenage, and just I don't know. I just felt like I needed I've been there 3 years. Just felt like I needed something different. I wanted to, just move away again, start fresh. Newport came in for me, and were very keen. They were saying we want to build a team around you, and we want to go up, that kind of thing. And I just bought into it. So I ended up moving to Wales. And loved it. Absolutely loved it. We had, I was made captain quite early on, and that's something I quite thrived under, and I was enjoying being the senior pro. And then we went on to have an unbelievable.
How old was you when you went to Newport?
So I was 27.
Yeah.
So I signed for them, and then we ended up having one thing that I'd never had was an FA Cup run. Through my career, we'd always, you'd watch a draw and you'd get terrible away. I remember you get even at Welling, we got to the furthest the club's ever gone. I think it was in the second round, and then we got Plymouth away, and you're killer. Or you get Doncaster away, and the teams that you're playing. But we had Wrexham away in the second round, and then beat them, and then we had got drawn at home to Leicester. And then that was it's always been a thing in my career. Whenever I've been on TV, apart from my debut, I've had a stinker. Honestly, my mum and that used to kill me about it. So any Sky Sports game, I'd get been dragged at half time, and all my mates are watching, and you're getting battered in the group chat. So this was on a Sunday, BBC prime time, Leicester at home. And I was captain. I had my little nephew that was walking out with me and stuff, and something about that night, we just knew we was going to win, and we ended up beating a strong Leicester team. Went to the next round, we had Middlesbrough away.
Did Andy King play that game?
He come on, Andy King come on, he come on in that. And then we played Middlesbrough. We drew with them away, got a replay, and then beat them at home. And then got drawn, when you're sitting watching this telly and you're like, come on, give us a decent one. And then we got Man City at home.
Jeez.
So that was the one where we was buzzing. We was like, are you going to get...
We're going to get topped.
Yeah, because this is when they played Burton Albion, I think, a week before.
Yeah, they get a 9
They beat them 9-0, and we was like, Jesus Christ, Burton are a league above us. But no, that was, to have an FA Cup run like that, we ended up giving them a good game.
I remember Guardiola was praising you guys in terms of...
We got one, but they were 2-0 up. We got one, but it was 0-0 at half time.
Who scored?
For them, Mahrez got 2.
Oh, okay.
Sane, I think, got 1.
Yeah.
And Foden. But it was 2-0, and then we got one back with about 5 minutes ago, so he's like, right, it's on.
Yeah.
But then they got 2 in stoppage time, beat us 4-1. But then that's where it sort of took a bit of a turn after that. Yeah.
So go on. We were going to touch on it. But
So this is like a weird conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the ups and downs, and then this one. So I played Man City, so that was like probably pinnacle, like highest game I'd ever played. Played Notts County on the Tuesday back in the league. I'd scored in that. We won 4-1. And then I'd had a little bit of an injury, so I came off with about 10 minutes ago, just like blowing. I was like, didn't feel like normal. And then the next day, just at home, literally felt, dizzy, sweating, that kind of thing. Started getting chest pains, and then I had like a little bit of an episode, and my missus took me to hospital. And then they just literally, as soon as I got there, they were like, took my heart rate way above what it's meant to be, rushed me straight through, like to resus and stuff. And spent like a week in hospital, and then got diagnosed with a heart condition that if I carried on playing professionally would probably get worse. So then within about a month of that Man City game, I was being told it's all over, and you got to retire. So it's been a mad journey, but even to that point, it was literally going from like pinnacle last 16 in the FA Cup, captaining, and proper established first team player, to having to call it a day about a month later. It's tough.
Is it like no football at all?
Yeah, done. Literally, like I still have regular heart scans now, and I'm allowed to do like moderate exercise, but as for playing professionally and pushing myself every day, that was it done.
I know I couldn't obviously bring you back to that high level of Man City, but I was speaking to a guy, James Duncan, who's manager of Chesham, and he's like, any chance of Fraser coming to play?
I've had more offers since I retired than I did when I was playing.
James is battling to win the league. He's like, any chance of
he said the level's slower, we can tick it along.
Be a sweeper in that league.
Wow. So then, for me now, I know you've had the low of retiring.
Yeah.
But I think you've got an incredible opportunity now to make a new high for yourself, and you alluded to it earlier in terms of the mentoring, and in my role personally, I find that you mentor just in my role, Cardinal again, another mentor. And while I haven't got anything to liken it to playing professional football, I definitely find it very, very rewarding. I know Cardinal's the same. So can you just talk to us a bit about your next steps and how you're looking to do a bit of...
Yeah, so when I first retired, I was struggling, because I'd thought
I was going to talk about it. What was that like? What was that period like?
Just pure like anxiety of just constant, like couldn't sleep, just thinking, right, what am I going to do next? I had my missus was 7 months pregnant, so I had a baby on the way. I was like, how am I going to earn money, and what am I going to do next? That kind of thing. I'd done my UEFA B license when I was playing, and done bits of coaching through the clubs that I've been at. But then when I come out and looked into coaching, I just didn't have a passion for like being on the grass and putting on a session. I know we were talking about Joe Edwards at Chelsea. I went straight into Chelsea. They helped me out. Said like, what do you want to do? Can we help you? Speaking to like some of the coaches that are there, and they're just constantly thinking like sessions. What can we do? And I'd not got that mentality. Thought I wanted to go into the recruitment side, and was just looking at different parts of the academy and stuff. But then I found coaching the person's what I want to do, and developing the human, rather than focusing solely on playing. It's the human and the experiences I've gone through,
which probably you did on your own.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of your own experiences, you probably did it on your own.
I think a lot of the experiences I've been through, I can take. I don't want to be defined by that. And, I want to. I do feel like I will go into an academy set up and hopefully get that opportunity. The player care one's massive at the minute, and I've gone round a lot of clubs trying to see how it's done. Been in to see you guys at Watford do good work. But now Chelsea are another one that have been brilliant, and they always get me in and try and develop me and get me prepared for that next opportunity. But just developing a human being, and even things like it would give me just as much pleasure seeing someone that you've coached or someone that you've mentored go on and be successful in a completely different field than it is to be in a first team. I think when I come out of retirement, I wasn't exposed to a lot of things that I should have been. You've got the life skills program in academies now, which is brilliant, and it gets kids and young players doing things outside of football, which I wish I'd have done more.
Yeah.
You know, I've come out of the game. I've never, you know, it's only last month I've written my first CV.
Yeah.
I've never been for a job interview.
Wow.
All these little life skills which other people are picking up.
Take for granted, really. Yeah.
And I said I was focused on football at Welling, and too focused maybe. When I was older, I probably should have looked outside and seen what other opportunities there were for when I do retire. But when it's been sprung on me, I feel like, you know, maybe I can get a little bit of, instead of being bitter and thinking, oh, I should have another 6-7 years of playing, you know, I've got a head start on what I'm going to do next, and I'm fully focused on that now.
No, that's really, I mean, I think that's really good. Just your experiences alone can help someone, and hopefully through this you can speak to loads of people and we've got some listening ears and just share their experiences, and hopefully it leads on to something where you're doing loads and loads of work.
It's, you know, I'm 29 now, and I'm, you know,
still young, mate.
Another thing I've, like, you know, I always thought not missed out because I'd never would have changed it, but, you know, I've just, you know, I'm at university now and things like that, and I'm like, if you'd have told me a year ago that I was, you know, be studying at university.
Yeah, I saw the picture of you and Robert Hoof.
Yeah, he's a good lad. He's on the course. There's some great people on that course, to be fair. Studying sport and directorship, so all these things I'm just trying to develop my own little take on the player care role, and, you know, it's something I'm, you know, it took me a while to figure out what I want to do, and I think that's the hardest part. A lot of retired football, whatever level, like Premier League to non-league, when you finish at 35, which is like the average retirement age, I think, then you're like, right, what should I do next? And the hardest thing is finding that next passion. And I think now I've got it, and I know what
you've got the
do.
drive now, getting a similar drive what you probably had well in when you was there.
Yeah, I think the difference, I was saying before, the difference transitioning from a young age, you know, wherever I do go now, I'm probably going to start low and then have to work my way up, but you're doing it at a later age, so you're catching up a bit. But, you know, I wouldn't swap the experiences I've had and anything like that for anything.
Definitely.
You know,
Again, at the start of it, when we was talking about just listening, obviously we've had conversations before this, and just listening to your experiences, it was sort of one we said, definitely got to get this on something and share it.
All right, the final thing before we kind of wrap it up is, and you kind of alluded, you kind of like was going there anyway. We'd like to ask, I guess, like one final question, which is like the advice. And I think for me, a poignant question would be, if you had to give advice to a young player between the ages of, you know, let's go, they're pros now, so let's go 20 to 25. What piece of advice would you give that young person?
Just don't give up. Don't be defined by one person's opinion. You know, you've seen the amount of stories, people getting multiple rejections and then ending up, you know, getting to where they should be is massive. Just bouncing back from one thing I've taken is just, you know, you can bounce back from any rejection, and, you know, nothing can stop you reaching. You know, if you're determined enough, you'll get to where you're supposed to be. And enjoy it, because that's another thing, you know, sometimes you can get carried away with being too intense and that, but, you know, when we was kids, we were paid subs to play football, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're getting paid for it and you're a professional, enjoy it. It's what, when I've come out of it, you don't realise until you come out of the game, like, you know, you're in a good position, and
trust me,
it's a bit different in the real world. So you just enjoy it and get as much out of it as you can.
No, I think that's a great way to finish.
Thank you, Fraser. It's been great listening to your stuff, and again, thanks a lot. All right.
Cheers for having me.
For everyone else here just listening, thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. What are we on again, see? We're on
I can't remember.
iTunes, Spotify.
Everything, all the popular ones.
Get it on in the car.
All the popular ones.
Cheers. All right, cool. Done.